Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got what happened to the last 10 Heisman Trophy winners. So check this out.
The Heisman Trophy is the most prestigious individual award.
This new channel we checking
football.
out.
And recently,
shout out to Just Jalen. Make sure y'all go subscribe to his channel.
Their career. So I want to
closing in on 1,000 subscribers.
And how did they pan out?
I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
Congratulations, Jake.
Thank you.
Brent?
A decade ago, Jameis Winston was the Heisman winner. Winston was actually the second freshman to win Heisman. The year before, Johnny Manziel won it as the first
Johnny
freshman.
Football, the biggest bust,
had one of the best Heisman seasons that I've ever saw. In that season, he threw for over 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and he won almost every award imaginable that a quarterback could win in college football. And he led FSU to a national championship game in which they won, and it was the last BCS national championship game. And he won the Heisman his freshman season, so he had to come back and play for another year before being able to enter the NFL draft. In the second season, FSU wasn't as good, throwing for 3,900 yards, 25 touchdowns, and this time 18 interceptions instead of 10 like the previous.
That carried over to the NFL
so in
too.
2 years as a starter, he would have
Holy.
28 interceptions, which would be a red flag going forward in his career. Unfortunately for Jameis Winston, that wouldn't be his only red flag going forward.
Injuries?
On November 14, 2013,
sexual assault.
Winston was accused of sexual assault. And as the case went on, Winston was convicted of the sexual assault charge. Then Winston had 2 shoplifting incidents to where he walked into a Burger King and they accused him of stealing some soda.
What the fuck? Bro, you know how down bad you gotta be to steal from fucking Burger King, bro? Cited for shoplifting crab legs? Nigga, what?
Then in 2014, he was accused of stealing crab legs from a Publix in Tallahassee. And for this, he would just serve 20 hours of community service. Despite the red flags though, Winston would still go #1, but the red flags would still be there later on in his career. Through his first 2 years, he would throw for 50 touchdowns and 33 interceptions. Then in 2017, he was actually accused of touching an Uber driver inappropriately.
Okay, bro, I ain't even know all this shit was going on with Jameis Winston. Bro spelled his name wrong too down here. But I ain't even know all this shit was going on. What the hell?
In a sexual manner, and this would lead to a 3-game suspension.
Damn.
And after his first 2 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he would actually just spend 3 more seasons with them. And one of those 3 seasons, he eventually threw for 5,000 yards and 33 touchdowns. The only problem is he also had 30 interceptions in that season.
Holy
Winston's
shit.
failures in Tampa Bay wasn't all his fault though, as his offensive line was usually bad, as he was sacked 27 plus times each season. After leaving Tampa, he was signed with New Orleans, where he'd be a primary backup.
What the
fuck?
I forgot about that.
One 1,000-yard season in New Orleans. Just recently, Winston signed with the Cleveland Browns, and hopefully everything goes well with him in Cleveland.
A lot of points out there in the first half.
Is Marcus Mariota?
Touchdown, Mariota.
In 2014, the Heisman winner was Marcus Mariota. Mariota's Heisman campaign will come in the
I wouldn't call Mariota a bust. You know, he's had some good moments. I'll just say his career didn't pan out how we all thought it was gonna pan out. I won't call him a bust though.
Mariota will throw for 4,400 yards and 42 touchdowns. Mariota will also show off his skill carrying the ball, as he would have over 700 yards and 15 touchdowns as well. Also in that season, Mariota will lead Oregon to a 13-1 record and the college football playoff berth. In the first game of the college football playoffs, funny enough, they matched up against Florida State and Jameis Winston. In that game, Mariota would have over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and lead Oregon to a Rose Bowl win.
Oh,
Oregon was riding
the hell was that?
2 touchdowns and lead Oregon to a Rose Bowl win.
Nigga jumped like 5 yards.
Hand to Marcus Mariota and had a lot of momentum going into that national championship game. They still ended up losing to Ohio State. But I don't know how shocking that was, because it's Oregon, they always disappoint. Mariota would then enter the NFL draft, where he was picked #2, right behind Jameis Winston.
Oh shit! Okay.
Funny enough, his first NFL game would come against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Jameis Winston. Once again, Mariota will lead his team to a win over Jameis's team convincingly. Fast forward,
so he had Jameis's number.
Career,
he owns
things
him.
were looking quite shaky. Through the first 2 years, he would have over 6,000 passing yards, 45 touchdowns, and 19 interceptions.
That's pretty good touchdown interception
things
ratio.
Really began to get rocky, as he would have 3,000 passing yards, but only 13 touchdowns and 15 interceptions.
Ooh,
in just his 5th year, the Tennessee Titans would begin to look for Mariota's replacement. The Tennessee Titans ended up signing Ryan Tannehill, and Mariota will begin the season starting, but he wouldn't end the season starting. Tannehill will lead the Titans to an AFC Championship game, and after that, Mariota's career in Tennessee was done. After that, Mariota was signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, where he would just be a backup. Then Mariota would look to resurrect his career with the Atlanta Falcons.
He was ass with the Falcons.
He wasn't terrible, but in the last 4 games, they decided to start Desmond Ridder. After his stint with the Falcons, he would then sign with the Eagles, where he was a backup, and now he's on the Commanders. And in Washington, he'll probably be a backup as well, considering the fact that they got the number 2 pick, and with that pick, they'll probably choose a quarterback.
Oh, so this was before Jaden Daniels got drafted. Derrick King Henry
was awarded to Derrick Henry. But it didn't always look that way. To start the season, Leonard Fournette was tearing college football up, and he was the leader for Heisman. But then Derrick Henry had a better game than him in Tuscaloosa, so Derrick Henry overtook him. To finish the season, Derrick Henry would have over 2,200 rushing yards and 28 touchdowns. But his season still ended with controversy. Many people thought Christian McCaffrey deserved to win the Heisman Trophy, as his rushing stats were similar and his receiving stats were better than Derrick Henry's. But anyways, Derrick Henry won the Heisman and helped Alabama win.
And I feel like the only reason that he won over McCaffrey is because he went to Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Typically the bigger name schools, you know what I'm saying, get
with questions about his pass
get the awards and
speed,
shit.
He went in the second round with the 45th overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. Through the first 3 years, things didn't go as expected, as he was sharing carries with Deion Lewis and DeMarco Murray. But in that third year, he did break the 1,000-yard mark and was given the keys going into his 4th season. In his 4th season, he would have 1,500 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, and help the Titans get to the AFC Championship game. The next season was way better, as he would have
2,000 yards,
17 touchdowns, and win Offensive Player of the Year. Since then, he'd be regarded as
he should have been on the Madden cover that year too.
2 more 1,000-yard seasons. Currently, Derrick Henry just signed with the Ravens, and he's just 490 yards away from 10,000 total yards. With running backs becoming more devalued and replaceable, appreciate Derrick Henry while he's still in the league, because he might be one of the last running backs we ever see break that century mark.
Stretch to the edge.
LaMarvelous Jackson, my glorious king,
won the Heisman Trophy in 2016. And really, his Heisman in the season came out of nowhere. Through the first 4 games, he would have almost 1,000 yards passing to go with 8 passing touchdowns and almost 500 yards rushing to go with 10 rushing touchdowns. To end that season, Jackson would have over 3,500 yards passing and 1,500 yards rushing. And he would have 51 total touchdowns on the season, and he would help Louisville to a bowl game. But of course, some people thought he didn't deserve a Heisman, as they thought Deshaun Watson should have got it. And it didn't help that Clemson beat Louisville in Week 5, and Deshaun Watson outplayed Lamar Jackson in that game.
Don't give a fuck.
Lamar had to stay another season in college, to where his junior year was similar to a sophomore year. The only difference is that he had more yards in his junior year than he did his sophomore year, and in his sophomore year, he had more touchdowns. Lamar then entered the draft, and there were questions on whether he was a quarterback or not at the next level, and some people even wanted him to change position.
And he proved them motherfuckers wrong. 2-time MVP, nigga. All he missing is a Super Bowl ring, bro. Once he get that Super Bowl ring, he's shutting all the haters up. I don't care what nobody says.
On draft night, Lamar waited.
That's all he needs, bro.
And then he finally heard his name called.
And that's gonna be this year. I stamp on that, nigga.
The Baltimore Ravens. And Lamar wouldn't start for a lot of his rookie season up until week 11 against the Bengals. Lamar will lead the Ravens to a win in that game, and he will start for the rest of the season. Lamar will start the last 7 weeks of the season, and he will lead the Ravens to a 6-1 record as a starter. He will also lead the Ravens to the playoffs, but sadly they lost in the first round. Now the next year is when he would light the league on fire. Lamar will throw for 3,100 yards, rush for 1,000 yards, score 43 touchdowns, and win NFL MVP.
Damn, we should have won the fucking Super Bowl that year, bro.
Unfortunately, the Ravens will come up short in the playoffs as they will lose to the Tennessee
I'm still
Titans,
salty about
this
that.
This will be a reoccurring theme. For the next couple years, the Ravens and Lamar will always come up short in the playoffs. But last season, that would look to change as the Ravens went out and got him some weapons, and Lamar will have another MVP season. But of course, the Chiefs quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, so you can't count the Chiefs out, and the Chiefs will end up beating the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. Even though
this is my mood too, bro.
And the Chiefs will end up beating the Ravens.
That face right there, bro. This is my mood for the rest of the night. I did not say a word. I went to sleep after that game.
Football players in history. The 2017 Heisman winner Baker Mayfield career path wouldn't be like the last two.
What the fuck?
In Mayfield's Heisman season, he would throw for 4,600 yards and 43 touchdowns, and be the first Heisman winner coach under Lincoln Riley. Baker was able to lead Oklahoma to the Rose Bowl, but sadly they blew a lead and lost to Georgia. And that would end his college career. After that, he would enter his name in the NFL draft. In the NFL draft, Baker would be chosen overall to the Cleveland Browns. And this was
he had a great rookie year.
And Baker Mayfield, as the Browns had a long history of being a quarterback graveyard.
Holy shit!
Baker Mayfield as the Browns have a long history of
this is actually a shirt? No fucking way, bro. No fucking way. This is actually a
the
shirt.
quarterback graveyard. So now
I did not mean
now
that.
Baker has a chance to change that narrative and change
That's
the culture
insane.
in Cleveland. But Baker will have to wait for that as the Browns will bring in Tyrod Taylor and he will start the season at quarterback. Baker wouldn't have to wait long though, as in week 3, the Browns were down 14-0 and Tyrod Taylor would get hurt, so Baker would have to step in. Baker will lead the Browns to a comeback.
Tyrod Taylor wouldn't have got hurt.
21-17.
Baker Mayfield wouldn't have started.
19-game losing streak for the Browns.
And he won the one
Baker
Rookie
have
of the
a
Year.
77 record in his first season with the Browns and throw for 3,700 yards and 27 touchdowns. After this season, Browns fans and the Browns front office thought they had a franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield. In the offseason, the Browns will go out and trade for Odell and sign Kareem Hunt, boosting up the offense. Unfortunately, that season didn't go as expected. Baker Mayfield had over 3,000 passing yards, but he had 22 touchdowns but 21 interceptions, and the Browns missed the playoffs. In his third season, he would lead the Browns to the playoffs and throw for over 3,000 yards and throw 26 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions. Baker and the Browns will make quick work of the Steelers in the wild card game, but sadly, they will run into the buzzsaw of the Kansas City Chiefs and lose. Now, the next season was supposed to be a really good season for the Browns, but it didn't work out that way.
Nope.
For starters, Baker and Odell wasn't seeing eye to eye, and
because Baker kept missing him wide open,
and he would decide to play through it, but his play was not that good. The Browns were eliminated from the playoffs in week 17, and then in the offseason, they would decide to trade for Deshaun Watson, so Baker then requested a trade. The Carolina Panthers is who traded for Baker, and he would just play 6 games for them before requesting their release. Just a day later, Baker was signed with the Rams, where he would play solid and get a contract in the
that's
offseason
crazy that
with
they
the
won this
Buccaneers.
game.
And just this past season, Baker would play good enough with the Buccaneers that helped him get to the playoffs, and he would earn a 3-year
Good to see
extension.
Baker winning though.
6 seconds. Murray.
Oh, Kyler Murray.
Once again, a Lincoln Riley quarterback wins the Heisman, but this time it's Kyler Murray. Murray was actually on the team,
And
with
then
Baker
Caleb Williams is
Mayfield,
the,
but
is
of
the
course,
third
Murray
one
didn't play
with
that
Lincoln
much
Riley to
because
win it.
Baker was the starter. In his long season as a starter at Oklahoma, he would put up for 300 yards and over 40 touchdowns. He would also have over 1,000 yards of rushing and 10 touchdowns as well.
12.
Murray would help Oklahoma go to the college football playoffs, where they will lose in the Orange Bowl to Alabama. After the season, there
Roll
were questions
Tide.
about Murray on whether he should play in the NFL or MLB, considering the fact that he was already drafted to the Oakland A's. Murray would decide on football over baseball, and he would be
Part
chosen
of
number 1 in
phase.
the NFL draft to the Arizona Cardinals. And Murray's career for Arizona has been solid, as right now he has 15,000 yards and 94 touchdowns.
He's got to stay
Murray
healthy
hasn't had
this
the most
year.
playoff success, only making the playoffs once. But with him still being young, he still has a lot of time to make the playoffs in the future.
Effective. Now Burrow gonna launch
Joe
downfield for Chubb.
Burrow.
Who's got it?
Joey B.
Joe Burrow came out of nowhere in 2019 and won the Heisman. Bill Burrow was the starting quarterback of arguably the greatest offense in college football history that had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Thaddeus Moss, Terrence Marshall, and more. And Burrow would throw for 5,600 yards and have 60 touchdowns, which broke the record for most touchdowns in a single season.
I think
On top of
that
he
record
would lead
still
LSU to
stands
undefeated
too.
Season and the college football
Yeah, Burrow's
playoff
just on a
national
different
title.
level
So
at
Burrow will go
LSU.
from a guy the season before that was probably viewed as a 5th round, 6th round pick to a guy that was viewed as now the number 1 overall pick.
Same
And
thing
the
with
Bengals
Jaden
had the number 1
Daniels,
overall
bro.
pick, and they, of course, will select Joe Burrow. Burrow has played 4 years in the NFL, where 2 of those 4 years was injury riddled and 2 of them were healthy. Now, his first season was cut short due to an ACL injury. His second season is what stamped him as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Burrow will have over 4,600 yards, 34
Took them
touchdowns,
to the Super Bowl.
and he will win Comeback Player of the Year. He would also help the Bengals get to the Super Bowl, and who would they be on the way to the Super Bowl? Well, Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs. It just wasn't meant to be though, as they will lose to the Rams in the Super Bowl. The next year for Burrow will be about the same, but this time, instead of the Super Bowl, they will lose in the second round. In his past season, Burrow only played 10 games and he would suffer a torn ligament in his hand and be out for the season. Hopefully, Burrow can stay healthy next year and for the rest of his career, because if so, he can be a really great player.
Goes to the end zone.
Devontae Smith, bro, this season was crazy. Now, this year was when I really started to watch college
One
football
of the craziest
consistently.
things will happen in 2020
Because of,
Devontae
you know what I'm saying,
Smith,
COVID and
wide
shit, I was
receiver,
bored.
will win the Heisman
So I was like,
Trophy.
why not?
Smith would be the first non-quarterback or running back to win the Heisman Trophy since Charles Woodson back in 1997. Smith will have over 1,800 receiving yards and 23 touchdowns on the season. To make this even more impressive, he only did this in 13 games.
For real.
As in the college football playoff era, if you make the college football playoffs, you will end up playing 15 games. And if he would have had 15 games, then he probably would have had close to 2,100 yards and in the ballpark of 27 to 30 touchdowns. Smith would help lead
he was
Alabama
on a different level.
to the national title game,
the Slim
which
Reaper.
They won, and they were undefeated through the whole season. Smith did enter the draft, and there were some questions about his size. Smith was 6 foot, but he was only weighed in as 166 pounds at the NFL Combine.
Damn.
So there was questions on
same
how he could
weight,
handle
yeah.
the physicality of the NFL level. But that was no problem for the Eagles, as they would still draft Smith with the 10th overall pick. In his rookie season, Smith was the number 1 option, but he only had 916 yards and 5 touchdowns. And in the offseason, the Eagles went out and got A.J. Brown, making Devontae Smith a wide receiver 2, but this was no problem. Quickly, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith would become one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, as Smith had close to 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns as well. Also in that season, Smith would help the Eagles get to the Super Bowl, but they would come up short to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And in just this past season, he would have over 1,000 yards again and catch the same amount of touchdowns as the previous season. Smith actually has a big year coming up.
He's due for a
if
breakout.
He plays well enough, he will get a big extension from the Eagles.
Well, he already got a big extension from the Eagles. Bryce Young.
For the 3rd time in just a decade, Alabama will have another Heisman winner, but this time it was Bryce Young. In his Heisman season, Bryce Young will have 47 touchdowns and 4,800 yards. Young would help lead Alabama to a college football playoff appearance where they made it to the national title, but they would lose to Georgia. And since Young was just a redshirt freshman, he would have another chance to win the Heisman again the next season. But things just really wouldn't work out that way. He would throw for over 3,000 yards and 32 touchdowns, but he would get injured, and that would kind of end his back-to-back Heisman hopes. Young would then enter the draft, where there were questions about his size also, but again, there were no problems as he went number 1 to the Carolina Panthers. And his rookie season really wasn't the best, as he would have 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And it didn't help that the guy.
And one thing I'm sick of people saying though is that, you know what I'm saying, that CJ Stroud would have, you know what I'm saying, taken the Panthers to the promised land. You put Bryce Young in CJ Stroud's shoes, bro, he would have done the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Because the weapons are completely different, bro. Bryce Young had Adam Thielen as his number 1 receiver. Think about that. Like, come on now.
CJ Stroud, and he would play better than him throughout the whole season and help lead the Texans.
Hey, but the thing is, though, when they met up head to head, who won that game? Bryce Young. Okay.
Now, it wasn't all Bryce Young's fault, as he was sacked 62 times.
Yo, nah, this angle is crazy, bro.
Thielen,
that angle is crazy.
DJ Chark. Now, this offseason, the Panthers did sign a couple offensive linemen, and they traded for wide receiver Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
So I can expect Bryce Young to have a better season next year.
Caleb Williams.
Once again, Lincoln Riley produces another Heisman winning quarterback.
This nigga,
and this time it's Caleb Williams.
You still gotta explain that buddy, cause I don't know what the hell you got going on painting your nails.
Anybody that watched Caleb Williams his freshman year wasn't shocked at this, as it just seemed like he was destined to win the Heisman.
At that.
In his Heisman season, Williams would throw for 4,500 yards and 42 touchdowns and rush for 300 yards. Unlike many Heisman though, Williams wasn't able to lead USC to a college football playoff berth or a Pac-12 championship win. Just this past season, Williams would have a chance to go back-to-back,
because he couldn't beat Utah.
But of course, that didn't happen. Relative to his Heisman season, last season was underwhelming, but of course, that didn't happen. Relative to his Heisman season,
that stiff arm had some behind it. Holy shit.
30 touchdowns, but to be fair, his passing attempts were down compared to this Heisman season. Now Williams' college career is over and he entered the NFL draft, where it looks like he's going to be the number 1 pick. That pick is owned by the Chicago Bears, which is going to be one of the best situations for a number 1 pick in many years. And with the Bears making win now moves, it's going to be lots of pressure on Caleb Williams to step up in his rookie year and perform well.
Jaden Daniels from this past season.
Last but not least, Jaden Daniels,
who I thought was the best QB in this draft class.
Daniels will throw for 3,800 yards and 40 touchdowns on the season. Despite Daniels' great play, some people thought other players deserved the Heisman trophy, like Bo Nix or Michael Penix.
Bro, this nigga, he had over 3,000 yards passing and over 1,000 yards rushing. Of course, they were gonna give it to Jaden Daniels. Like, if you actually watch the games, bro, 9 times out of 10, they would have lost most of those games without Jaden Daniels. Let's be honest.
Of course, Daniels won, and now he's projected to be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. He wasn't always supposed to be top 3 though, as for most of the college football season, he's projected to be a day 2 pick. So Daniels will play for either the Washington Commanders or the New England Patriots in the NFL. Hopefully, either of those teams can surround Daniels with enough talent to where he can become a franchise quarterback. And that's what happened to the last 10 Heisman Trophy winners. Some will end up being in the Hall of Fame in the future. Some just didn't work out in the NFL.
Yep. Hey, what do you guys think though? Y'all let me know down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notification, notify whenever I drop another banger video. On the road to 200 subs. So we get there for more banger NFL content like this. And without further ado, I'm out. Gang!